Thousands of people at hundreds of tables from all corners of our region are making an impact.
On the Table Milwaukee is powerful because it brings people together.
We are breaking bread and connecting communities.
It brings diversity to the table of age, of color, of community.
There is a much greater awareness of needs in our community. Homelessness, transportation, childcare.
We're going to be successful by us working together and supporting each other.
People are collaborating, partnering.
I see people of really different thought.
And strengthening our community together. Something remarkable happens when you mix diversity and dialogue.
Anytime I would see people that were of different cultures.
We don't get to do that very often today, to come together with people whose backgrounds are not necessarily the same.
Acknowledging each other, seeing each other, and listening to each other's story.
I think that will help us build that resilience.
It starts around the table.
When personal stories are shared,
I didn't have a father in my life either, so.
Connections and commitment deepen.
I don't know one person who left today's on the table not moved and deeply impacted by the conversations we had here today. Ideas were exchanged and tears were shed.
It motivates us to be present and to be a part of the solution.
Somebody actually said that they were being vulnerable, so it really is a safe space for people to bring their full self.
It is so gratifying to see so many people want to engage in moving our community forward. Since the first year the Greater Milwaukee Foundation introduced On the Table, we have moved from conversation to dialogue to relationship building to ideas to action.
Spanning topics like advancing racial equity.
People want more transportation. They want more opportunity. They need funding.
Promoting entrepreneurship.
And I think that you have to do that through cross-cultural partnerships. You have to do that through cross-sector partnerships.
And criminal justice reform.
We know that people are really passionate for change, that transformational change is coming.
If On the Table continues to engage the community on this topic, you'll see stronger families, you'll see more men active in their families.
Standing up to bullies.
I think the youth have a voice and we're here to listen.
And harnessing faith to fight gun violence.
To be able to share my story is powerful because I can change the narrative for other women.
Sharing your story is healing, but we understand that we need to enact policy so that other people don't go through the same things.
Where collaboration today is generating solutions for tomorrow. Your voice matters at On the Table MKE.
Good morning and welcome to day 2, session 2 of On the Table. On behalf of the Greater Milwaukee Foundation, we are really excited to have each of you joining us for this conversation this morning focused on Black and Brown philanthropy. Our theme of healing justice is so important this year in a time of the pandemic and unrest. Everyone is really thinking about the ways that they can contribute. Our president and CEO, Ellen Gilligan, often says that when you partner with the foundation, the impact of your giving is further magnified by the philanthropy of other donors who have a shared value. And the legacy that you leave, that we leave behind together far exceeds what we could do alone. So today we thought we'd spend some time really talking about what philanthropy looks like in different communities. And I have a very, very special guest who really needs no introduction joining me today, Miss Thelma Sias, former retired executive from We Energy's, philanthropist, amazing woman, living legend, joining us for our conversation today. So before we head into breakout rooms, I want to welcome Thelma to the conversation, and just frame, if you have questions for Thelma, I encourage you to use that Q&A at the bottom of your screen before we head into breakouts. Welcome, Thelma. How are you doing?
Good morning, everyone. A delight to be with you today.
Good. We are super excited that you could join us today. We thought
Before we begin the session, though, I'd like to ask us all to take a moment of silence in respect to the over 215, almost 220,000 people who've lost their lives in the journey of this pandemic, and to say, take a moment of silence and respect to the families and the lives of people that have been changed forever. And in that moment of time of silence, may we all believe that indeed we will get beyond this challenge in our lifetime. Thanks.
Thank you, Thelma, definitely for recognizing that. I want to start off the conversation. I've often heard both you and Mr. Adams talk about what philanthropy means to you and your family and your journey to philanthropy. So I was hoping that we could really open up our conversation today by you just talking a little bit about your journey.
My husband, Stephen P. Adams, has decided to be my technician today. He's not actively participating in the discussion, but I will certainly engage our experiences with you all. And I think it's important for all of us to know that when we hear the word philanthropy, it is not just about how big the gift is, it is about understanding what it means. You know, I know many people who have financial means to give large amounts of dollars, and they do an extraordinary job of doing that. I also know people that have the means but choose not to give. So the first part of this discussion about philanthropy is, in my opinion, the ability to have compassion and concern for the needs of other people. That's huge. Because when I look back and I think about the experience of philanthropy in my life, I'm one of 11 children to my mother and father. Early in my life, I saw the power of the gift of giving. And my mother and father raised us that if you give a gift, it is never to be something that you brag about or tell anyone else about. It should be given sincerely from the heart and soul. So at a young age, my parents had people come in and out of our house who had need. I never forget when Dan Williams started to come to our house to eat every day because his family couldn't afford to feed their large family. And my brothers and sisters and I were just fit to be tied because there were already 11 of us, but every day Dan came to the house 3 times a day to eat. And I remember my mother, we decided we were going to talk to Dan and stop him from coming. And we met him down the road and told him, because now we're sharing all of the food in the house, all of the cookies and everything. And we told Dan not to come back anymore. And my mother saw Dan a week later and asked why he hadn't come by. And Dan told on all of us that we told him not to come because he was eating up all the peanut butter cookies. And my parents brought us all in. And my mother and father were very clear about, for someone to have need and you can meet that need, you should never be tired of trying to figure out how to do that. Because we couldn't understand when we lived on a farm, yes. My parents planted 10, 25 acre garden every year. And people would come and pick beans and pick tomatoes and all of the things in the garden. That was my parents' way. They didn't have financial means to create a foundation to give, but they knew there was a need. That was their way to give. And early in my life, I was taught the power of compassion and understanding and recognizing that there's a need and figuring out how to meet that need. And I think in our communities, both the African-American and Hispanic community, we have more of a philanthropy process than we're willing to think about and realize. because every day in our communities, we're figuring out how to give, how to make something a little bit better for this family member, this friend family. And so now we need to move our process to how do we link it to other sources to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Thelma, one of the things that you talked about is what philanthropy has really looked like in your household growing up. Can you talk a little bit more about what philanthropy has really meant to you throughout your journey in your career?
Well, what it has meant to me throughout my career is the ability to start from the small acts of giving to being able to link to resources like a program like the United Way of Greater Milwaukee and Waukesha County, where you can leverage the dollars you do give, to understand and know throughout the community where the go far. Now, we live near the House of Peace. On a monthly basis, my husband and I make the decision about the financial gift directly to the House of Peace, but we also go to the store and get the list from the House of Peace about the kinds of things they need in order to meet the need. And as you very well know, in this day and time is even more challenging than ever before. There are times when I go over to, we live near Feeding America, and simply go and roll my sleeve up and donate my time to help sort food to give it out. So it is the aspect of the families right now with cost, educational exposure, and the flexibility for kids. I had a friend of mine last week who was talking about her two kids were having their own protests against the ability to online learn. And I suggested to her, I said, have you thought about it does take a village to educate our children and give them access and opportunity. I said, why don't we set up a buddy system? So as you give them an allowance, let's give them an education incentive allowance. Every week that they do well, create the ability to get through their homework, follow through, then let's set up enough nieces, aunties, and uncles so we give a contribution every month to reinforce that ability. So philanthropy is both the gift of giving, the use of your talent, the investment of your dollars, but also nurturing ideas and thoughts to make other kinds of things occur day in and day out.
And you talked a little bit about the philanthropy in the Hispanic community and the Black community. Thelma, as we think about really celebrating what philanthropy looks like in these two communities, can you talk a little bit about when people say you have to be a millionaire in order to give back, or you have to be this established leader in order to give of your time? What would you say to those people?
Well, what I would say to people is that, yes, that's what you see a lot of. Yes, you hear a lot about. I mean, I go into Target sometimes and I'm looking around to see if I'm going to see Tyler Perry so he can pull down all of the layaways at the Target that I go to. Not because I have a layaway, but I know many people who do. So I'm hoping that Tyler will do that. And I'm proud of that kind of power of a gift. The gentleman who spoke at Morehouse College and paid off all of the student loans, that's significant. But I also want everyone to know that every dime and dollar matters. And it's important for us not to sit back and say, because they have the resources, they're the only one that should give. We all should be invested in making the change in our community. We all should. We all must take on the chore of the power of the gift of giving and leveraging our gift to make change happen day in and day out and make it a consistent quality of improving lives of those that need that improvement. So again, I say, I understand the visibility for others, but they're the average man and woman every day that's making this kind of investment. And we must make a commitment. I mean, if your budget is tight, then let's talk about what are some of the kinds of things we can do in the gift of giving. Enormous talent, give our talent to organizations that are impacting issue. Be willing every day to think about, how do I cut back? If I have 10 pair of shoes, how do I cut back and not buy 10 more pair because there's someone that needs a pair of shoes? How do we donate the things that we have that are in good condition? My mother said to us early in our lives, you never give anything to anyone else that you wouldn't want to receive yourself. So give our best in the act of giving. And sometimes simply sit back and observe, look around our community. The community, not just about the ones we don't know, the community of our own families. We don't need, the gift of philanthropy is not that people must come and ask. It's our responsibility to think about how do we respond to need. Sometimes you can sit around and see, when you see young people, whether they need some extra gloves, when they're out on bus stops and you see them in and out. I do something very simple. I buy the carry bags, and I have anywhere from 10 to 12 dozens of them in the trunk of my car. When I see women, particularly women, but men and women out on the bus stop with these little shopping bags where everything falls out on the ground, I stop my car and I pull out some of my bags so they can stack their things in. It's a small 99-cent bag, but it's a gift of the ability to treat people with dignity and respect. I make it a point every month. I knock on that door at the House of Peace. I go over and I sit in the room. I watch people come in and out. And what is it that one thing I can do a bit more of? Well, let me go buy another case of macaroni. Let's buy another case of pinto beans. It is not always a huge, but we must start and work ourselves forward. And as we look at this need and issue, reach out to friends and build your own network of people that you can say. A friend of mine talked about, she's seen a lot of homeless women walking the streets of Milwaukee. She wants to provide shoes and socks for them. I have been busy going from store to store, figuring out what's the best way to do that. And I think I have a solution, how we can buy thousands of pairs of socks, so that as we are all about in the community and we see the need, sometimes it is simply to take the action and come back and build a bigger foundation to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. So Thelma, as you think about helping the next generation of philanthropists, and keeping in mind that philanthropy is new to so many people, but I think especially young professionals and these up and coming young leaders, what are you doing personally to help them engage in philanthropy?
As I work with and interface and mentor young professionals, and it's not just only young professionals, those that are in my retiring age group as well, I'm saying to people every day, what are you doing and how are you doing this? How much are you willing to give? And have you thought about a plan? I spent time as a co-chair of the United Way campaign, the first African-American to co-chair United Way. And as I did that co-chairing, I asked United Way to plot for me all of the agencies that are served by United Way within a 7-mile radius of my home. And it was alarming to see how many were. And I think it's important that as we talk to people and interact with people, we frame how dollars are being used to impact our community from a variety of sources. And I applaud the Greater Milwaukee Foundation for the extraordinary work you're doing and looking at a variety of ways to impact change. This discussion here today, bringing a variety of us to the table, around the table to have the dialogue, to look at the issue. So I asked the question. I encourage the involvement, and I have pushed hard with nonprofit organizations and boards that I serve on. I've taken a very direct opinion that it's time to pass the baton of leadership on to the younger generation, so that you can be at the table, you can be in the room, you can be a part of the transformation of change. So that's how it has to happen. Making the ask, encouraging people to participate, helping people to know how to participate. If you don't give a large gift to United Way, start giving. Look into how the businesses that you work for are providing incentives to match the dollars that you're giving. Look at how organizations are serving and meeting need, and how do you take your talent and time to make that happen. But look around in your own family, the family of people that you know, the ones that you're blood related to, the ones you have relationships with, and ask them as well, what are the kinds of things you're doing to give and create the ability to make a difference in the community? So we can build a big network that it's constant. And we need to be talking to our young people as well, the youngest of young, about the ability to share and to give and to invest in the ability to make change happen.
Selma, I think that is great. One of the very first conversations that I had with you, I walked away knowing what a philanthropist really looked like. But I also knew that I was a philanthropist in my own unique way. And as we spend time today really talking about how we each show up in philanthropy in our own different journeys, I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about what are your current passions and interest areas. I feel like I know some of those. What's currently driving you, and how are you and Mr. Adams giving?
Well, we give through the United Way process is one way that we do it, because we appreciate the capacity to constantly be looking at the ability to frame issues and have a long-term strategy for them. The other part of the giving process too is the ability to look at a variety of approaches. I am very passionate, my husband and I, about the quality of life in the community we've made an investment to build a home in. And every morning I wake, I'm on the same task. I'm opening the door, I have my gloves, I have all of the other resources and things I need. I'm concerned about the quality of life and what the community I live in looks like. So I'm picking up garbage, and I'm on the other cell phone calling the sanitation workers to come in and make sure the way my sanitation cleanup looks the same way it does downtown, the east side, and some of these other places. The quality of life. As I drive around Milwaukee, the board ups and the way in which our community looks is a grave concern to me. So the quality of life, in terms of quality of life, housing, and educational access are very critical things here in this community and across the country. As we both have retired, we're looking at other ways to make investments of giving with our own families. I have a niece that's in a PhD program, and God let her have a dissertation review soon. So one more nickel that will go someplace else. So we believe in internally with our nieces and nephews to create the ability, as long as they're pursuing educational opportunities, how do we set up scholarships to invest from the beginning to the end? Some are starting new jobs. We're creating the ability for there to be financial means for them to have their own investment of a home versus just renting. All of those pieces are important, but the bigger piece for all of us is the quality of life for everyone. When I drive down the street and I see men and women and children sleeping on the ground, the cold, wet ground. When I drive over by the Martin Luther King Center and there is a village, a tent village of homeless people, every day I'm trying to figure out what else is that we need to be doing, because the quality of no one should have a life that's only that way. There must be. There's too many smart people. There are too many resources of people. There's too much mind capacity that we have not figured out how to give the quality of life that we all wish to everyone. To everyone. And that's a big concern to me. There's a little lady, she pushes a grocery basket every day. And a number of the agencies have tried to reach out to her, but she said she was okay pushing that basket and living her life out of that basket because she was recently evicted. But we're going to keep working with it to figure out how we get her in a safety network. And that's the other thing. I think it's so important in our role of philanthropy not to think that we are alone. Always look for resources to leverage and build a capacity with. And I don't want anyone to think that because your gift may be different and smaller than someone else, that it doesn't matter. Every gift matters. Every thought of change matters. And the capacity to do it from the heart, from the soul, and because you believe that others deserve the quality of life that you so desire.
So, Ms. Thelma, before we transition to the chat, or excuse me, to our breakout discussions, I thought I'd ask one final question here. Can you talk a little bit about what the difference between giving with intention and passion and giving because you feel sorry for someone?
Yeah, you know, I get it that we're all humans, and sometimes if that's what motivates people, it's what motivates people. But what I want us all to be aware of, when you're giving only because you feel sorry for, that means you're not willing to invest in a long-term solution. You want to shut down and say, it's okay, I've given that $100 to this cause, or I've given that 100,000, it should just go away. If we are giving for completion and removal of barriers and difficulties of people's lives, we've got to make the investment from the beginning to the middle to the end and to the completion. And I know people are motivated by different things. I get that, we all are. I don't blow them off because it's because they feel sorry, but I don't want anyone to feel sorry and quit, nor do I want anyone to feel sorry and disrespect the people that they're giving to make change for. Nor do I want anyone to say, I feel sorry for, and I'm going to have no regard for the outcome of those persons' lives changing. Yet there are other people, regardless of how complex and painful things are, they choose not to give for anything. I've sat in rooms with people and made the appeal, and I've had people say to me, that's just not a cause I want to give to. Then we go back and make another appeal. Well, I don't believe in that. I can't give to that. You know, so there are some people that have no capacity and will at all, but I don't want any of us to feel that philanthropy is a pity party. It is an opportunity to get up off our own butts to improve the quality of a community and the lives of others. Because, you know, there's some truth. Other than grace, there go me or you in the same situation. Other than the capacity of all of the support and ability of others to pick us up and move us forward, we could be the one pushing the grocery basket up and down Burleigh with all of our life savings in it. We could be the ones. So I caution anyone to believe that it is so much them and it's never me. It's so important that we sort out the difference between the way we give, how we give, and the commitment we give for long-term change. And that whatever gift, it's a gift that's given with dignity and respect to other people.
Thank you, Ms. Thelma. I want to just thank you for your time and your words. I thank you for sharing your journey and your experiences with philanthropy. I think it's so important that all of us find a way, whether it's through time, talent, or treasure, to invest in our own community, because together that's how we move community forward, regardless of what our own individual interest areas are. And it doesn't just happen through philanthropy, but it certainly does happen because of philanthropy. So thank you for today. And now we are going to head into some breakout room discussions. All of our participants today, you will get a link in the chat that has your discussion question guides. We're going to be randomly putting you into groups. I encourage you, as you go into these groups, first make sure we do some introductions with our names, and then follow your discussion guide questions, and we will all meet back here at the main stage for a closing and a recap. All right. Well, welcome back, everyone. I'm seeing some smiling. Can everyone hear me okay? Can I just get like a thumbs up if you can hear me? Perfect. You never know with Zoom. This is the new world. So welcome back, everyone. I'm seeing a lot of smiling faces. I hope that each of you found the discussions and the discussion guides helpful and useful.
Yeah. Oh, take us out.
Wait. I will say that we are collecting some of this information. So if you want to fill those out and send those back in, complete those forms, we would greatly appreciate it. You'll also get a survey at the close of day 2 with some of that information as well. So thank you. I again want to thank Ms. Thelma Sias for joining us for the conversation today and sharing her words and her wisdom with each of us. I encourage each of you, as you are thinking about how you will show up in philanthropy and considering yourself an individual philanthropist, what that looks like for you now during this time of pandemic, but also in the future and how you can really invest in your community. So thank you again for joining us. We have 4 other table sessions for today. The next table is going to be our intergenerational table, Leading Across Generations, which is going to be hosted by Corey Jo Biddle from Pure Milwaukee. If you haven't registered for that, definitely do that. We appreciate your conversation today. And if you want to join us for our finale tomorrow with the James Causey series, you can still register for that as well. So I wish you all well. Have a great day. And on behalf of the foundation, thank you again.